I know you guys have screened other Black Mirror episodes at the Great BFI before, but this one feels particularly appropriate. Did you always envision it on the big screen?
I mean, yes, no. I mean, it's kind of it is a love letter to classic films, of which I've probably not seen enough.
Yeah.
So this felt like the perfect sort of venue to show it. I hope people think we did the vintage movie industry proud. And so it just felt like it feels like a natural home.
Yeah, and two films in particular, right? There's the characters when they're describing the original Hotel Reverie, they reference Casablanca, the 1942 film with Ingrid Bergman and Humphrey Bogart, and The Brief Encounter, the 1945 David Lean film. What was it that you wanted to take from those films?
Well, especially so I should say, so originally, it's weird. So how the episodes come about is sometimes quite odd. So initially, I was thinking I had two ideas in my head. One was I knew for quite a long time that I wanted to do a horror story about somebody using technology to restore an old black and white silent horror film, and they discover they can talk to people in the film. This was one idea I had, but I wasn't quite sure what the story was beyond one sort of creepy moment. And then I had another idea, which was, well, what if there was a high-tech way of replacing an actor in a big action movie, like a sort of Bond movie, and the wrong sort of character is thrown into that. And I was talking with Bisha K. Ali, who we were
frequent Black Mirror,
frequent sort of partner in crime. And I was like we watched Octopussy as research, and we thought this is already kind of beyond parody.
Very different episode.
Yeah. Well, also it was like, that's going to be expensive, isn't it? You have to go all over the fucking place, and it's kind of sort of already quite silly in a way. And then I watched Brief Encounter, which I hadn't seen before.
Specifically as research, or just it came on the telly?
I think no, it was research. I think it was part research and part just curiosity. Like I'm the sort of person who I haven't watched enough old films, so when I do, it's like I'm trying to better myself, basically. And we watched it at home. I watched it with Connie, and we were struck by many things. One was, oh my god, this is it's heartbreaking but mundane. That film, it's very British, and it's all about sort of aching and yearning and people smouldering over sort of jam sandwiches in a railway cafe, and suddenly those two ideas that I'd sort of concepts I had sort of went zoink, and it's like oh, it should be a romance. That's and we like to do a romantic episode now and then at Black Mirror, so it felt like that's so then you're sort of channeling that.
Yes, more on the romance later, I think.
Yeah.
Emma, are you, like all of us, a massive Black Mirror fan? Obviously you are now.
You have to say that at the moment, don't you?
Prior to getting cast, how would you describe your level of fandom, knowledge of Black Mirror?
I wasn't like mad.
You weren't buying.
I wasn't like outside Charlie's door. No, I've been a huge fan since the beginning. I mean, when Black Mirror came out, the first thing, it was just completely different, wasn't it? Completely original. Hadn't seen anything like that before. And I feel like each season that comes out, I can't believe this is the 7th.
I know.
That's mad.
Vintage show.
Yeah, vintage film. It just does something new each time.
Do you have a favourite episode? Because I know Charlie likes to judge people based on what they're
I have a few. The one that really haunts me is Shut Up and Dance. Yeah. I just think that's, something so about that.
I'm psychologically profiling you based on
Yeah, that one really stuck with me. And then Sandra Napero, obviously, and Bandersnatch is brilliant. I mean, they're all great.
Oh, thanks.
Halu, I always think it's a really interesting challenge for a director to work on an anthology show like this, because you've got to somehow channel the Black Mirror-ness of it all, but then also do your own thing. How did you kind of get that balance? And by the way, we haven't met before. This is fantastic. Congratulations.
Thank you.
For me, what's Black Mirror about Hotel Reverie is in the writing. It's a story, which is why I love the script so much. Is because I feel lots of Black Mirror episodes and stories are about characters finding their emotional truths in a different dimension. Sometimes virtually, sometimes a different era. For example, Sandra Napero is one like that, Striking Vipers. or even use Callister, in a way. So I feel like this is exactly very Black Mirror. But at the same time, I've never read or watched any Black Mirror episodes like this. It is totally going to be so interesting, and the world is set in. It's so nostalgic in a way, and it's soulful in a way. So I was really attracted to it. So I could see that this is very Black Mirror, but I could do something with it that's very cinematic, which I love. I'm a huge fan of old films. That's how we had our first conversations, because I was a banker many years ago, and I became a filmmaker because of watching 1967 Swedish black and white film. So I actually...
You can tell them what it is; they'll know it.
Don't profile me on it, but it is Persona by Ingmar Bergman. So I love that film so much that I switched my life completely. And so it's really charming, the script. And so, for me, I when I talked to Jessica and Charlie, I just felt, we're on the same page on what kind of story, what kind of vision this should be. And so I felt that it's a really creative challenge, but also I could feel that this is so Black Mirror and going to be uniquely Black Mirror.
Yeah. Jessica, I'm a bit in awe of all film and TV producers because you create worlds where none existed before, but particularly in awe of you because of this anthology thing again. And you always seem so chill as well. So relaxed, authoritative, but relaxed. What I'd like to know is you said to me one time that making this was like making 6 feature films back to back. I wonder if you could just give us a bit of a sense of what you meant by that, so that our audience can be in awe of you too and understand the scale of what we're doing here.
Oh, well, I mean, this series was built 7 seasons ago to be kind of insane. The magic is in the madness. I've only had the pleasure of making the show for the last 2 seasons with Charlie, and really, in a traditional season of television, kind of everyone's moving along and you're prepping and you're shooting and you're posting and you're doing all those things, but you're doing it a lot with the same crew, people who are across all the episodes. So not only do you share language, you share a shorthand, but you also, everyone's in the same choke points at the same time. With Black Mirror, there are 6 episodes being shot for this season in chronological order. But some of those are in early prep, some Charlie's still writing, some you're in production, some you're in post. And so these amazing people up here, for example, for Hotel Reverie, are trying to catch all the attention that they can from us. Susie, thank God, and how they were making sure that as much Charlie's vision is being infused into the film you just saw. And Charlie and I and a few others are across the entire season.
It's probably worth just saying, actually, it was such a fantasy come true. When we were shooting this, we were shooting it at Shepperton, and it overlapped a bit with USS Callister Into Infinity, which is the sequel to that. Yeah. And it was like the sort of film nerd, it's like fantasy come true, that you had people in spacesuits over here and people in like 1940s clothing over here, and they were doing reshoots for Gladiator 2. So there were sort of people in loincloths.
We showed up one day and there were people in togas and gladiators, and we were like, "Are those ours?" Did we miss a note?
Yeah. Competition over the unit parking. Yeah. No, that way.
I think that's the day we put Charlie on a camel.
Could have been awkward.
Yeah, the camel. The camel.
Yeah. The camel. The camel was day 1.
Was that day 1?
Day 1, day 2.
Day 2.
Camel was pretty close. That was
Camel
a bonding experience.
Because I actually got to visit the set, so I didn't see the camel, but I saw a lot of this other stuff going on. And Susie, you were my guide around the set when I was there. Thank you very much for that. But Shepperton is kind of, all film studios are weird, but there was something special about having the Keyworth Studios, Keyworth Pictures in Hotel Reverie, and then being in Shepperton, which is not entirely like Keyworth, but there is some overlap in this illustrious history that it has, this illustrious British film history. I wonder if you could tell us a bit about Shepperton, Susie, from your own experience of working there, what the vibe's like there, and how that kind of seeped into Hotel Reverie.
Yeah, it was a wonderful thing for me to be able to take a show to Shepperton, I suppose, and not just use it as a facility, and that it became for the contemporary sequence with Harriet and Nora, that it became their set, because that stage was built, I think, in the late 30s, you know, and I genuinely felt like I was kind of passionate when we first read the script. I mean, Hallow and I've worked together before, and I was saying, we've got to go to Shepperton because it has this, it's like every old stage there has the skin of John Gielgud, and like it has the cells of our kind of gods.
Someone told me Stanley Kubrick worked on that set.
Yeah, he did. And I mean, there are lots of sort of, I mean, there's film history is there, and I felt like that was great to be able to make this show, particularly this Black Mirror there. And it also, for me as well, like on a personal level, I was there as a kid. My dad worked there, and the kind of, it felt like it was a really sort of magical personal thing for me, as well as doing a Black Mirror, because I've always wanted to do a Black Mirror, blah, blah, blah. It was like all these stars were aligning. I was like, whoa, this is a bit weird. It's like, you know, my dead dad's looking down on me producing a show at Shepperton and all that. It was kind of, it was amazing. And I'm really glad that we got to make a period, like a 1940s to that sort of authentic, like golden age, but also, for me, to sort of slightly politicize it, but as a queer person, to bring that aspect into the history, and to say, look, you know, don't be scared. Like, to change the narrative was massive, and to do it in that place.
It only makes it slightly fruitier as Harriet Walters.
Sorry?
It only makes it slightly fruitier as Harriet Walters.
Oh yeah, exactly. With Harriet and all of that. I mean, it was great, and you know, Shepperton's magic, and it does feel like a place that you sort of want everybody who loves movies to go. You know, like Kubrick, Alexander Korda, you know, The Third Man, Aliens, like everything that matters, you know, has happened there, and their cells are still floating around, and I'm breathing them up.
We could do a sort of Jurassic Park style, using those cells,
exactly.
just breed
Exactly.
story idea.
I'll leave that for next series.
Okay.
So Emma, I am hoping, stroke manifesting, that you get some awards recognition for this performance, because I think it's really good. I know you've already got the Golden Globe for The Crown, but I think a little Emmy for Emma.
Oh my God.
You can't talk about this usually in the interviews because it's a massive spoiler, but you've all seen it, so you know. But like the layers to the character, the fact that she's Dorothy and she's Clara and she's working out all of that and what that means, it's a really great performance, basically. Can you tell us a little bit about how you approached that?
Thank you so much. I feel like I'm turning red and I've got like 3 bow ties on it. Like a mouse in a microwave. The performance, how I did it. Yeah, it was two characters, which is sort of kind of amazing as a challenge, and also a bit of like, where do I start? And especially when you talk about 1940s, I was sort of going through a bit of a 1940s hole anyway, because like you said, I kind of, anytime I'm like, well, I really need to do something to like better myself or like learn something, I go back to those films. I was in a real Jimmy Stewart thing. Yes. He's just amazing. And so I was watching a lot of films from that era, and I was just struck by how all the actors, but especially women, female actors, just had this such poise and such a specific way of articulating and gesturing and holding themselves, and especially in terms of their expression. They had this incredible ability to flip from comedy to raw emotion that could completely break your heart in like a matter of milliseconds. And something can be so I've watched Bringing Up Baby, which is one of my favorite things ever. And it's such physical comedy. Everything they do, nothing's wasted. And it's nuanced, but it's also heightened. It's incredible. And I was like, how the hell do I do this? So I got Polly Bennett to help me. Polly does The Crown with me and has done a few things with me since. She's absolutely incredible. And she found this incredible bloopers reel on YouTube, where it's about 10 minutes of bloopers of like 1940s actors.
Have you guys seen this? If you haven't, you must.
It's a really weird, it's got one of those YouTube things with a weird like name that doesn't really make sense. I don't know how, I was trying to find it in ages. But basically what that did is it showed me what these actors are doing on camera, and then when they say a line wrong or someone like tickles them or something, they completely break. And it's wild to see them break, because I assumed they were walking around like that. So it's just like how everyone did everything. And they break and they're just completely normal and everything changes. So that then gave me this sort of place to start from, to be like, okay, Dorothy Chambers is one thing, and then Clara is another thing. And then the second half of, towards the end, after you've seen Clara get back bits of her sort of flashback in her life, I sort of tried to integrate the two a bit. It was fun. It could have given me a blueprint for both things. Is that enough?
Yeah, I love all that. Like, the voice as well. There's like the period detail in the action.
It was so fun. I kept being told to like rein it in.
Yeah.
I was the biggest. I think one of the the note I could getting the most. Like less on the voice.
But Emma understood the earnestness so much. I remember the table read. You got the biggest laugh the entire table read. And it was it really a goose? Like, it was the funniest, like, and just the earnestness that you played with.
Will you say it for us now, Emma?
Was it really a goose? Was it really a goose? It's just amazing how they say words. It's so cool. Yeah.
And how, unlike Keyworth Pictures, you guys actually went to the trouble of building an entire replica 1940s hotel lobby in Cairo. And did loads of other stuff in a kind of sort of period-specific way, I might say. Tell me about how that kind of worked for you as director, and why you wanted to do things the old-fashioned way, as it were.
Well, because Kimmy didn't call me, you see. We created, because for us, I think from the start, it's very crucial that the black and white film within the episode, within the story, feels like it was made in the 40s, not a contemporary film set in the 40s. So for the story to work. So to make that work, we couldn't, obviously Redream doesn't, unfortunately exist, or fortunately. And so we decided to build, so Helen Scott, our production designer, built this amazing hotel set on the biggest stage in Shepperton. It was amazing. And we really used the craftsmanship from the time to have 3 walls only, so it feels like a stage when you are filming on the day. And Philip, our DP, would light from above like before, and we would really simulate the camera work as if the equipment were from the 40s. So from the 40s, the cameras were large and heavy, and you wouldn't be able to put them on the floor. You wouldn't be able to use any handheld, no Steadicam, obviously. So we really recreated that aesthetic quite religiously. So to create that authenticity, because it's really important for the story to work if it's you really feel they're from 2 different worlds, and so that when we lose that connection, it feels heartbreaking. And also within that black and white world, when we break the grammar of the film, when the system does break down, the emotional high actually happens when the system fails. And like Charlie and I, we were talking, it's like the NASA control room no longer can control anything, and it's 2 people on the moon, literally. And so we then can break the rigidity of the film grammar, and then can let them be free. And then so we use Steadicam handheld during those sequences that you saw, when we want to feel that they are 2 people, real people, making a genuine connection in the most artificial setting, strangely. But because of that, it is romantic, and the whole frozen world. So I think, it's very important for us, to create an authentic backdrop of the artificial film set at the time. Also for that romance to work, to feel that it's 2 people having a kind of infinite feeling of discovering themselves and each other in a very artificial place. So we, really, it was really fun, and I'm still tracking down the backdrop.
The painted backdrop.
Yeah, it was all hand painted. And
where did you find people who had that skill in this?
Helen. I mean, I think it was I think she really enjoyed it, and the prop master, etc., is finding, the old scenic painters, and we talked about it, and it's also the palette, the palette, the set, even though we shot it, because it's digital, we shot it in color, like you shoot it in color and you take color out, so we were looking at black and white monitors, but the color is recorded, but the set was painted in a very limited sort of monochromal palette.
Yeah,
it's sort of fascinating. We went through a whole deep dive of the science really around shooting on black and white, etc., and how they used to. We didn't stick to some of it, like a lot of makeup was really extraordinary, like blue lipstick to register certain things.
Like,
I think it would have
purple eyeshadow.
Yeah.
freaked
Like clashing
you
colours.
out. Exactly.
Yeah.
So
My favourite one is a lot of the tuxedos are like from the light entertainment department
Yes.
of the
Yeah.
studios, because they're all sort of purple sequins and,
Yeah.
and pink in real life.
And
that,
pink.
that looks black and brown.
Yeah.
Black and white.
yeah.
Yeah.
It was really extraordinary. We did a lot of camera tests and stuff,
Yeah.
to make sure, because it felt so like surreal, like really blue lipstick with pink so and so. And anyway, it evolved, but it was fascinating.
Yeah, and we did the close-up because, if you watch Casablanca, the close-ups are really like Hollywood glamour lighting. So we really did that as well for close-ups. We lit a bit differently with a bit of a filter, and we used the Super Baltar vintage lenses, which made the skin look really beautiful and as well. So it was super fun.
You can't do it again.
Black Mirror gets a lot of credit, rightfully so, for the casting. And now you're at this stage, in season 7, where you've got the pull to get big Hollywood movie stars, but you're also still creating stars. I'm sure there's lots of people in this season that we'll be talking about more and more. But let's talk about Emma Corrin and Issa Rae. Why did you cast them in this? What made you think that they were right?
Because they're fucking great. I think we were just, we were just sort of blown away, really. I think it's that thing of, as Howler and Susie were saying, we wanted it to feel absolutely like a film of that era, but there's a sort of clash of contemporary and vintage going on. And I think it's testament to Emma, it's testament to Howler, it's testament to everyone. There's a whole, I hadn't really thought about this until the other day when I was watching this again. I haven't got sick of watching it, which is amazing, because I've seen it about 76 times. There's a whole unbroken sequence where there's no dialogue, basically, or very little dialogue for about 10 minutes in the middle of this, when you go into the void, and there's very little dialogue, and then it goes from one musical sequence into another. And the performances, even there with no dialogue, are so masterful. The way it's been made is so masterful. Makes me look clever as a writer, and I had to write fuck all for that. So that's why, because these are people who will make me look clever when I had to do fuck all comparatively.
Very smart.
But I do. This is one of those moments. Sometimes when you're making this show, you sort of know, we've got a really special one here, and I think we felt that.
Was it always going to be an American actor and a British actor?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, always going to be American and British. And it was sort of. Again, I didn't think too much about the politics. I didn't think too much about the sexual politics of it. I sort of almost ignored that. It was just the same thing when I wrote San Junipero. I kind of didn't think about it, but I did, if you're assuming. I thought about it, and then I thought, right, now I'm not going to think about it, because I'll get too self-conscious and weird. And then you sort of, and then you write something hopefully very universal, but at the same time it's very specific, and it's very specific to the sort of era, but so that's what I try to channel.
See, this is the thing, right? Because I don't think a lot of people, if they thought of Black Mirror, would come up with the word romantic, right? And yet,
Psychopaths might. What about the first one with the pig? The most tender romance between a lonely prime minister and a wonderful.
This is in its moments an exceptionally romantic show. I really think it is. And I just wondered. This is actually a question for the non-Charlie Brooker people on the panel.
Okay. For the normal people.
Whether you guys agree with that about the sort of special kind of quality to the romance of Black Mirror, and whether you have any theories on where that's coming from. Why, when Black Mirror is romantic, it's so heartbreakingly, achingly romantic.
Well, I mean, I think Charlie just is a really beautiful observer of real humans. No, I mean, he makes jokes all the time about how he doesn't have human emotions, but I'm sorry, they're seeping out of him. Like, he absolutely does. But it's also, I think, as an observer, I think he really captures humans and characters. And I think that's the reason actors always respond to the scripts and how the rest of us gravitate towards the material time and again. And so it just feels real. And I think that his romances don't feel inauthentic.
I thank you for what you've done for romance and for the purity of it, because it isn't about race or gender. It isn't about those things. It's about, do you love this human being? Do you care about this human being? How old are they? How disabled are they? How whatever it is. You don't. It's not dealing with that. It's like cutting through all that shit and going, I love that person. Like, they're important. They're good. And it breaks my heart that I can't have them. That's where I get a bit teary. But this felt to me so like that moment of privilege that we've had, that we could love who we wanted, or some people. And the fact that we might lose that is just shocking. And I think what's amazing about Reverie is that it says, look, here was this time. Here was this time. And we know it. And it was our parents. And they couldn't, it was difficult to fall in love with a black person, to fall in love with the person, all of those things. But Charlie does it in this way that is just like, I'm not going to deal with that shit. Look, here's a good human. And I love you for that. So thank you.
Thank you.
Oh.
That's nice.
So you are an old romantic at heart.
Evidently. I don't experience human emotions. I don't know. No, thank you. Thank you.
Do we think this episode is representative of the rest of the season, and if so, in what way?
It's an emotive season. We've got a couple of episodes where it's the sort of in a way the old Black Mirror gut punch. Mm-hmm. We've got one that sort of lures you in and goes hello, and then something like that. And then we've got a couple of kind of heartbroken episodes, or sort of emotive episodes. We've got a couple that are kind of romps. So again, it's a mix. It's a weird show because it's a bit like being in a band where sometimes you do grungy, angry punk singles and sometimes you do these heartfelt love ballads. It means that there's always a section of the audience you're going to piss off. And I think that's one of the reasons why when people are ranking their favorite episodes, they sort of put them like quite often you get some people who love one episode and they'll hate another one, and they don't. You can psychologically profile people by their favorite episodes. So it's a cornucopia. Is that the right? Have I used that word correctly?
Word.
Is that a good word? It doesn't get said enough, does it? Because this is 2025 and not like 1932 or something. So it's both representative by being unrepresentative of the rest.
And,
that makes sense?
Yes.
Good.
I've spent quite a lot of today slagging off the finale of The White Lotus in WhatsApp groups. I'll be honest.
Have you? I quite liked it.
Did you? Well,
I liked it as well.
Mixed opinions.
Yeah.
But the reason I mention that is because, do you consider not having to write a finale episode one of the benefits of an anthology? And do you think?
Oh, you bugger!
And do you think?
Where does this come in? Where does this?
And yes, and do you think about the order of?
We do think about the order. We probably overthink the order, and then I agonize over the order, and then I'm like, oh my god, because you're doing. It's a bit like the puzzle with the hen and the chickens and the fox or whatever, getting them across the river of the farm. Because sometimes you're like, because we've got another episode with this a bit. We've got another episode this season called Eulogy with Paul Giamatti going into old photographs. So you're like, well, we need to keep Hotel Reverie and Eulogy apart a little bit, so they're not back to back. So you slightly do that. You're thinking about, okay, people are going to sit down. They're going to, how many episodes are going to watch on what night one? You're sort of doing that. We put USS Callister at the very end because we knew, okay, like that's a sequel. So you're sort of, it's like sequencing an album. But you're right, we don't have to write finale episodes. But it's hard because you don't have the same characters all the time. Well, sometimes we've done a sequel, we've brought characters, but I mean, it's heartbreaking to have to say goodbye to the characters at the end. And so you don't have that. I think the character I've written for most consistently over time is Philomena Kunk, who's sitting right there in the form of Diane.
We're going to close now to never kill her off. Then. Never kill off Philomena Kunk.
No, we nearly killed you off once, but we didn't.
Still standing.
Sorry for just pointing at you there. Yeah, so we don't get to write finales, which must be difficult. But you have to write an end. Actually, hang on a minute. No, because the last few seconds of every episode are a finale. So
There
this
you
is
go.
quite
He
hard.
does it 6 times a season.
Got 6 finales, actually.
Yeah.
Yeah, 6 finales. Take that, Mike White. Actually, I thought it was a good. I liked it.
Maybe I can.
I liked it. So there.
Well, we have now reached my own personal badly written finale of this panel. Thank you very much, guys, for being
Thank
with
you.
us.
Thanks
Thank
for
you for
having
making
us.
this incredible.
Can I just, in a very patronising way, thank Haolu for coming along tonight? She gave birth literally about 20 minutes ago. No,
4 days. We
yeah.
make a joke the entire season that we have no favorite children of all the episodes, and she quite literally just showed us all up tonight by creating 4 days ago.
Yeah, on Saturday.
And I should also say that you can watch Hotel Reverie again, and you must, from tomorrow morning, 8 a.m, and the rest of the season will drop then as well.
Yes, and click the double thumbs up icon because apparently it's a very important metric.